So for today, I really want to talk about why we have to stop overthinking our homekeeping systems. I feel like in my experience, this is the number one thing that really can mess people up is overthinking. And look, I get it, okay? I am the queen overthinker over here. Okay, I can really go deep into that rabbit hole. But when it comes to building your homekeeping system, this is a place where you do not want to think too deeply about it because I've seen where it can really sabotage people and sabotage your goals or just completely keep them from getting started. So in this video, I'm going to talk about 4 things that you want to think about, especially if you find yourself kind of going down that overthinking rabbit hole, feeling like you need to know everything, have everything completely mapped out on paper before you can start. Hopefully after today's video, you'll reconsider the next time you feel like doing that and think about just jumping in, starting with your baby steps, doing step 1 and figuring it out as you go. Before we begin, hi, my name is LaDay and I'm the creator of this channel, Love Always LaDay. And on this channel, I just like to talk about my peaceful homekeeping system, which is the strategies and methods and mindsets that I use to feel more peaceful in my home and with running my home. As you guys can probably hear in the background, I'm a mom of 4, okay? Okay, I'm a mom of 4. Life is pretty crazy, life is pretty busy, but when I started getting my systems in place, my routines in place, I really feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders and like I can just enjoy my motherhood and feel like my home is running smoothly. And on this channel, my goal is to pass that on to the next person who feels like they can also use that in their life. Okay, so I'm going to talk about 4 reasons that you may want to reconsider if you kind of feel yourself going down that rabbit hole and you know that you're getting to the point where you're overthinking. Number 1, overthinking can make things seem more complex than they really are. For example, whether it's my homekeeping system or anyone's homekeeping system, sometimes when you look at all the steps, it can easily start feeling like, oh my gosh, that's so much to do. How can I keep up with that? Or yeah, pretty much that's the main thing. It can feel more complex or more difficult than it actually is when you see things kind of mapped out and you see the whole system at once. And what I would really encourage you to do is trust in your ability to create habits. Basically, once you do something, once you start something, if you do it over and over again, you'll eventually get to the point where you don't have to think about it as much. Like, for example, could you imagine if every single day you wanted to brush your teeth, you had to think of all the steps that go along with that? You're like, first I find the toothpaste, then I squeeze it, then I brush this side. Then, it's overwhelming when you think about like all the little tiny steps that you have to make in your day. But that's not how our brains work. Once you do something over and over and over again, then it gets to a point where it's like, yeah, you know the steps, but literally you can do those steps while thinking about something else because it doesn't feel as overwhelming and your brain just kind of puts you on autopilot. Well, the same thing is true. Sorry, you guys. The same thing is true for your homekeeping system. Yeah, the first, couple of steps or the first couple of days of trying a new step might feel like you have to put a lot of thought into it. But if you put in that repetition and you do it over and over and over again, you'll start to notice that you're doing things without really thinking about it and that it just becomes second nature to you. So just like you wouldn't, write down every step to brushing your teeth or taking a shower or getting dressed in the morning, like even though you know what to do, that's kind of how you need to think about like the list of activities that you're striving for each day with your peaceful homekeeping system. After a week or 2 of doing those things, you won't even need the list because it'll feel second nature and it just won't feel as complex as it looks on paper because our brain's ability to turn things that we repeat into habits. Okay, another reason that you want to stop overthinking when it comes to building your homekeeping system is because actually doing something is the best teacher and it is the best use of your motivation. I feel like a lot of times when we get motivated to get our homes together, to get our systems together, You guys, motivation doesn't last for very long. You know, motivation is really good to get us started, but it's our habits that keep things going after that motivation starts to die. But what if you're using all of your motivation to read and to write lists and to study? You know, before your motivation runs out, you haven't even started, and then your motivation dies and you don't have any habits. You haven't started anything. And I feel like this happens to people a lot. They use all of their energy to learn, and then they get overwhelmed. They get, you know, the motivation runs dry, and then they don't progress. So it is so much better to figure out what are those 1 or 2 steps that I should be working on, and then jumping in, working out the kinks to those 1 or 2 steps. And then let's say that motivation dies, then at least you have gotten started. And maybe if you've experienced the positive benefits that come from those first 1 or 2 steps, you're more likely to stick with those things, and those can become habits. And then the next time you feel that motivation, which you will, once you start seeing your home being pulled together, things are easier to take care of than you thought they would be, then you absolutely will be remotivated to jump back in and learn the next 2 steps. And so when it comes to your peaceful homekeeping system, if you do it the way that I outline it and follow the steps that I recommend, there really is no loss, and there's no negative consequence to just jumping in. Even if you can't see the big picture, that's absolutely okay, because the way that I have it outlined, you don't need to. But I do know that that's not the case for everything in life. You know, especially when we're in school and you're doing an assignment, you absolutely need to understand the assignment from beginning to end in order to do it properly. But with peaceful homekeeping system, that is not the case. So you do not have to approach it that way. Just figure out the 1 or 2 things that you should know, and then do it. And then once you figure that out, then come back and learn a little bit more. An example that I can think about that I really feel like exemplifies this is, I talk about this example all the time, but it's swimming. You know, you can sit there and watch YouTube videos all day about swimming. You can read books about swimming. But if I put you in the water, you're probably not going to be able to be successful if you've never swam before. And so what's the point of building up that body of knowledge and learning about step 2 and step 3 and step 4 when you have not really demonstrated mastery of step 1? So get in the water, go figure out step 1, not just read it in your head, but actually experience step 1. And then once you have mastered that topic or that subject, then it's appropriate for you to build off of what you've actually learned and not just what you read about. Another reason that you want to totally just be mindful of overthinking and like trying to overanalyze this is because I feel like there's so much missing information when you try to read books, watch tutorials, map everything out, write everything down. What you're missing is the ripple effect. Sometimes when we make changes to our habits, we have no idea how that change is going to ripple out into our day. We have no idea how that one change is going to affect other aspects of our life that may be making this whole thing easier. So an example for me is this week I've been experimenting with intermittent fasting. And so for those of you who don't know, it's a just way of eating that's supposed to have many different health benefits. And so one thing that I've decided to do was, you know, eat within a certain time window. So I start eating at 8 o'clock and my last meal is at 4. For now, y'all don't come for me if y'all hear next week that I try something else. I'm just trying it. I want to see how it works. But anyway, like I've been doing it for a couple of days, and you would not imagine how just that one rule, stop eating after 4, impacts other things in my day. If I stop eating after 4, then all of a sudden I'm seeing a huge reduction in the amount of junk food that I'm taking, because most of the time my junk food comes in at night. I'm seeing a huge increase in my hydration. It's making me more mindful about planning what I'm going to eat in advance, because I'm like, whoa, your girl only has 6 hours in this day. Is it 6 hours or 8 hours? 6 hours in this day to plan what she wants to eat. So I'm being more mindful and I'm thinking about it ahead of time, because who's not going to be hungry when her eating window closes, you know? Interesting that that one rule has so many different effects in my life. And you'll find the same is true for your homekeeping system. You guys, you have no idea how keeping a shiny sink might impact the rest of your kitchen, because I'm one of those people, if my dishes are done, my hot spots are clear, I just feel like I might as well just go ahead and finish the job and wipe the counters and sweep the floor, you know? And you never know what that trickle effect might be for you. So You can't figure that out when you're reading a book. You can't figure that out when you're reading a YouTube video. So this is one of those things where you absolutely have to jump in and get started and see how this habit unfolds. And you may not realize it, but you may be taking care of other problems that you want to address through this one change or this one tweak in your habit. So be open-minded to that, and just know that you're not going to get the full story unless you start it yourself, and then you can see how things kind of resolve over time. The last reason that you may want to stop the overthinking, the overplanning, the overanalysis is because at the end of the day, gosh, I hate to say it, but you know, I snatch edges on this channel. I rip off band-aids because I just feel like we gotta say what needs to be said, y'all. Okay? Overthinking, for some of us, especially if it's the overthinking that's not productive, it doesn't move us forward on our goals, it can be a form of procrastination. It feels good to procrastinate when we can say that the reason that we're procrastinating is because we don't understand, we feel overwhelmed, we don't know where to start. It's so much more comfortable to procrastinate when you can kind of use that as like your mask. But if you take the mask off, what it is it's basically procrastination. You are delaying the moving forward process and using, you know, being overwhelmed or not knowing where to start as your excuse. And so the way that I can think about this is I'm like, there's a lot of things that there were, you know, that we didn't know how to do. And we just jumped in, we figured it out along the way. I don't know if you guys had one of those kind of older model TVs. And if when you were a kid, if you had like spare time where you used to like kind of click all the buttons to see what all the buttons do. And you're like, oh, okay, I see. You used to go through all the menus and see how things do. And then all of a sudden, everybody thinks that you're this TV expert and your grandma and your parents are like, hey, come fix this. It's not that we knew what we were doing to start with. We jumped in and we figured out things as we went. We saw what worked, we saw what didn't work, and that's how we were able to figure it out. The same thing can apply in our homekeeping. You know, it's so easy to, you know, okay, wait. Could you imagine if back then that all we did was just read the manual and we're like trying to figure out how the thing worked from the manual? You know, you can get overwhelmed and then you're just like, I'll figure out the remote later. But we didn't. I don't even think half of us were old enough to read the manual. We just jumped in. We started clicking buttons and we saw it happen. So the same thing goes with your homekeeping. If you don't know exactly what the right step is, it's okay to jump in and do the wrong step. Do what you think is the most helpful at that moment. And if you get started, you figure out that it's not helpful, then you can always go and try something else. If you feel like that's not helpful, then you go and build it out this way. And that's ultimately what it takes. What are some things that I could do to move this project forward? Because every time you start moving forward, even if it's not the right direction, you learn something. You guys, making mistakes is part of the learning process. Going down the wrong path is part of the process. When you do something wrong, it shows you that maybe this is not the best course of action. So maybe I'm going to try this way. And that is progress. That is moving forward. It's absolutely not moving forward if you feel like you can't do anything until you can make sense of it in your head and that everything that you know that you're going down the right path. It's a waste of time. Love you guys, but I have to say it really is a waste of time, and that time could be better spent making mistakes, doing it wrong, and through the doing it wrong, you figure out the right thing to do. So that's my little spiel on that. And this is one thing that I have to watch out for in myself a lot. That's why I feel like I can say this as a recovering perfectionist. You guys know that I'm trying to grow this YouTube channel and try to grow a business. And I try to use that excuse all the time. Like, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. I've never done this before. And I have a lot of mentors and things that I follow online. And they're like, nope, being stuck is just the easy way out of making progress. There's something that you want to do. Maybe it makes you feel uncomfortable and you're trying to avoid that discomfort and you're trying to avoid the decisions that need to be made and saying that you're stuck. And basically, this is a message that I hear all the time. And for me, it always turns out to be true. That I know exactly what I should do. It just makes me uncomfortable. So if I say I'm stuck, at least I don't have to make those uncomfortable decisions and I can feel good about procrastinating on choices that need to be made. So anyway, that's why I feel like I can call it out, because it's something that I absolutely have to work through all the time. But at least if you're aware of it, then you get to decide Do I want to be stuck, or do I want to go do those things that make me uncomfortable so I can start moving forward? So, over analyzing, over planning, overthinking absolutely can be a mask for procrastination. So, yeah. So, those are the 4 things that I wanted to talk about today, of why you definitely want to get out of this overthinking, over planning, over analyzing. It's not helpful, and it's not going to help you move towards your goals. Instead, you want to just take what you know, even if that's step 1 and step 2, and jump in as soon as possible and figure that out first. And then as you learn step 1 and step 2, then you can figure out what's going on with step 3 and build yourself up like that slowly over time. And I think that if more of you guys just trusted yourself and trusted that you can absolutely figure out things as you go, and that it's okay to do it wrong and to figure it out as you go, I think a lot of you guys would be happier with your systems and your routines. And, even if you're not happy with it, you'll be finding out what doesn't work for you, which is golden information as you're trying to figure out what does. So that's all I have for you guys today. Please make sure that you like this video. That helps my channel out tremendously. And please subscribe if you're new. And as I mentioned before, if you are interested in the system that I use, step-by-step instructions, motivation, encouragement, printables, resources. If you're interested in all of that, then check out the description box down below, and I have some goodies there that I think you may enjoy. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.